in what color was it? Was it purple? Which, funny enough, I still don't have a purple deck. I still don't have a purple deck right now, but that's how I got better in Battlespirits. I need to make one. But that's how I just got good at Battlespirits. So now transfer Battlespirits Saga. It's that mental flex of being able to play any color adequately, so that when you take those strategies, you put them into there. But anyway. Lakers.
All right. Welcome, everyone, back to the CoreTalk, where we talk about all things TCG. And today I'm your host, Mustang.
What kind of nonsense?
Why does it sound like you, Mr. Rogers over here?
Today we'll be painting a
Good
new
morning,
picture.
neighbor.
Today we'll be painting.
Man.
Today we'll be painting a picture.
I can't believe it.
We'll be painting a picture. Very colorful picture, with as many colors as you want.
No, that's the
Okay.
That's the painter dude. What was his
Yeah.
name again?
Ah, damn! I know you're talking about Bobby.
Bob Ross?
Yeah,
Bob Ross.
dude,
That
Bob
dude.
Ross. Yeah.
Bob Ross.
But anyway, guys, today is that podcast where we talk about tactics, strategies, and anything else that will come to our minds that'll help you on your adventures of TCG. Now, granted, we are of a competitive mindset. So some of these strategies and tactics you can use locally, competitively, or just, show it to your friends and see, what things that you guys can teach each other. So we're going to be all over the place. So get a pen and paper, because our techniques and strategies are different, even though we're all on the same team. Some of us excel in these areas, even though we understand, than most. So
Indeed.
here we go. Yeah, we're going to start with you. Since we're going to start with John, since he has played a variety of different card games, probably more than all of us sitting right here.
Yes.
As his list goes down from card games that, Pokemon,
Resume
Yu-Gi-Oh,
keeps going.
Vanguard,
Resume keeps
Digimon. I think he played White Swords, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
The dude played
Gate Ruler.
Gate Ruler. He played a lot.
Yeah.
Well, my playstyle has always been a controlling one. And in this game, like outside of stereotypical red, like destruction, yellow, purple, and that's honestly it. They come up with actually a true control. I just like blue because I always like exploiting alternate win conditions.
That's fair.
Even in Yu-Gi-Oh, I always try to find some type of way to either hand loop you or Exodia you, or even tried to summon the creator god at one point.
Yeah.
Still in the game.
Yeah.
You were that guy that played Yu-Gi-Oh that did the Yatagarasu. They made an empty hand. You just kept summoning Yatagarasu.
So you're saying try to exploit different win conditions.
Indeed. By coming up with ways to formulate that win conditions. Like in yellow, there was, I guess I would call it a pseudo loop that I would do, which was a regain with 1 luster and Michaela, 2 lusters and Michaela on the board, and just keep going. Like if you don't have an ice shield, this strategy would just take you from 100 to 0, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Because it's basically free because of Mikhail, and then the luster units are just
Standing each other up
With the regain, yeah.
with the regain.
Yep.
yeah.
They're alternate win conditions.
It took a lot though. That's a heavy combo. To do.
That definitely is a heavy combo.
You're talking about a 3-card combo plus
Plus
the
a regain.
So you need at least 4 specific cards all leveled up.
And they have to have no response. That's
Yep.
like the perfect opening.
Yeah.
So I have something for you to keep in mind. It's not more of a strategy or tactic, but more of a mindset. There are some colors, archetypes within TCG, within the TCG, respective TCG that you play, that will make you play in a certain way. Such as you have some aggressive decks that love to fight. People love to be hyperactive sometimes and just go I'm gonna tear this dude down as much as I possibly can. I guess one of the things I would like to say is don't let the deck archetype dictate how you need to play. At some points in the game, there are some moments where you need to slow down. You need to play defensively, or you need to play, conservatively. Being too aggressive can end up putting you in a very bad position. And vice versa, there are some decks that are defensive, and being too defensive is going to cut you out on moments where you need to be aggressive to put your opponent back foot. Each category or playstyle has its strengths, but its weaknesses are what happen. Its weaknesses are when you dabble in it for too long, or I'm going to say you are too fixated on that type of strategy. Now, granted, being aggressive because the deck says be aggressive, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying is don't be too played on it to the point where you miss opportunities or you put yourself in a very bad deficit.
Indeed.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I think one tip I would give. I mean, it's helped me, and it seems to help like people on this team as well from time to time. Is definitely diversify what decks you play, because of the fact that for one, if you play the deck, because it's one thing for someone to tell you why the deck is strong. It's another thing to actually experience it, versing it, and then playing it.
And then playing, yeah.
Because, like, for example, I fought, like, let's use Battlespirits Saga, for example. I recently played against various Mount Gamble decks. I'm a red player, so I'll look at them like I'm just chewing them like butter, right? But then after playing the Gamble deck for a while, for just a little bit while, just a small time I did play, I was like, I can see why this thing is abusive. Because once it gets going, it's getting going. Like, you put 3 Phantasmal Paradise, you summon one
thing, you draw 3, and
You
then
just
you
draw
get
3.
all your answers.
Like, it's kind of nutty. And then you just attack, unblockable, give that to me. And it's the package is they're relatively decently sized. You can add other things inside there, like
Because
Michaela.
they're really cheap. They're really
Yeah.
cheap, and you can find
So-
all your pieces relatively fast.
Why am I getting at that? What I'm getting at is because of the fact that as a red player, I'm used to stripping my resources away from my opponent. I'm not used to gaining a surplus amount of resources and then using that to outscale my opponent, right? Which is what Genbu kind of specializes in. Or another example, here goes Green, where Green has no real removal. Their only real removal is the Giga Chicken, right? Feng Hong.
Yeah.
So literally you attack into them, but sometimes there's a moment where you have to play Feng Hong that you have to just make a statement, and there's other times you have to hold off because that could be detrimental and kill you. Because now you use up your cores, you have enough cores. You don't have enough cores to play Aspiration anymore.
Yeah.
So and then you have to either put pressure on them to remove the cards. You better like, hey, if they block, is that block good enough for me to be able to put more pressure here, maybe with Huntsman? And another deck I recently played also was Blue. Blue was like, hey, sometimes you can't worry about the life anymore. They might stabilize, and you just have to deal with that.
Go through the deck now.
Now I just have to start tearing through the deck. So where things like Drag Golem becomes very potent, and maybe having an absolute Nexus in the back, and then things like Nirvana to go, or maybe you just have to just play into a Mandala, just play it, sit, play it, and sit.
Yeah.
So all different strategies, which I think it's healthy because of the fact that it diversifies. Maybe like, okay, now I'm not playing the deck, I know the weaknesses firsthand of the deck. So now when I play against it with my own main deck, I can exploit them, 1. And then 2, maybe there's some strategies in that given color that now you can bring into your own color to help diversify
enhance it.
and innovate, your deck play. So it's like, hey, maybe this thing I have to use in purple, now I can take it into green, and now I can use Deadly Balance on what was that card that activates on destruction? I don't remember anymore. But things like that nature is like, hey,
Battlecore?
or like I'll use a better example actually. Things like Deadly Balance into Lava Fish, right? You attack
Flame Fish.
Yeah, Flame Fish, Lava Fish. I'm sorry, guys. I'm missing.
You mean
Jax Fish?
Jax?
Jax. Hey, shout out to my boy Jax.
How's it going, man? Harass him in his comments.
Oh,
give him
wait a minute.
T-shirt.
Hey, don't forget you got to wear that shirt, big fella.
Yeah, harass him that he got to wear
We're
the shirt.
expecting
Tom
it.
won.
Yeah,
You got to wear that shirt.
you gotta wear that shirt, fam.
You got 2 weeks to get that shirt ready.
Yeah, wait, didn't he say it's like if I made top 8 and I won the whole thing? I'm like, now you have
Yeah.
zero excuse.
You have zero excuse.
You gotta wear that shirt, man. Harass him in his Twitch channel. Go visit him.
Mm-hmm.
Go in there and be like, where's that shirt at, fam?
Go learn.
He's gonna learn. He's gonna learn.
But actually, on top of what you just said, since you just mentioned it, the other one is statement plays.
That's true.
Statement plays is a very, very impactful thing. Now, I'm gonna say statement plays because it probably goes that by different terminologies in different card games, but it was definitely popular at the beginning of the Digimon card game, and then the phrase kind of just died out.
Yeah.
Statement plays is when you play a very impactful card, regardless of the cost. But if you have the cost, of course, you're playing it.
Mhm.
But you play that card knowing that your opponent has to respond to it. It has a very strong, devastating skill or presence on the board. If your opponent does not answer on the following turn, your statement sticks. These plays are very, very powerful. Now, let's go with Battlespirits Saga example. Let's say that I have exactly 9 cores, right? Nothing on the board.
I think I know where you're going.
Nothing on the board.
Yeah.
Exactly 9 cores. and I play Numengard.
Yep.
Yep.
Put 1 core on it. As you just see that I just paid all my cores and put 1 core on Numengard. At this point, his presence on the board is a statement now. If you don't deal with this guy, the following turns he now becomes a menace. Why? Every turn that he's on the board, going off of Isaac's words or examples for Numengard, this guy is now a constant poker. He's a 10k body that has an offensive presence. Now, at the end of the turn, or before the end of the turn, after the battle step, you get a second refresh. Meaning everything you paid prior before that second refresh, you get that all back.
And he restands right back up.
And you restand everything. It's a second refresh. That is a statement.
Yep.
Let's look at something like, not saying this isn't, but let's look at placing down a Dragon Naga. Placing down a Dragon Naga versus placing down a Numengard, you can see the distinct threat difference there. That Numengard has a huge body presence, which is a very devastating skill. Dragon Naga does have curse and a draw, but he can be easily dealt with due to his low BP.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Numengard, it takes someone to respond to him accordingly. And because of that huge body, the ways of getting rid of him kind of vary. You're looking at specific cards such as Dream Bomb, Core Theft, maybe a Deadly Balance if you're fighting a purple player, and the list goes on.
If you're trying not to bounce them, then
Right.
Yeah.
But
You
now
gotta-
if you push a select few spells to the side, he's a physical body that can only be answered by another physical body of the same power threshold, 7, since he only has 1 core. And if he can't be checked that way, because we don't have to block with that Numengard, the statement sticks, and now moving forward, more statement cards can be placed. Because you already said you could pay 8 to put down 1 core, now each turn moving forward, the statements are going to get bigger and bigger. So just because you have to pay a huge amount for something, keep in mind that majority of the time, the larger the cost, the stronger the card. If the card comes on the board and the statement's there and your opponent doesn't address it, statement sticks, you now have a very good foot forward on your opponent.
And
now there's always a reverse to that.
Yeah.
Having your opponent play an even bigger statement. Like, say he plays Numengard, but I have like a few reductions, and I drop down Maduke. That's a huge statement on my part, because if I have Maduke at least with 3 cores on her, he can't swing with his elephant to do all his fun stuff, because I'll just block and I'll take a core from him and stand up.
Indeed.
Yep. So statements also can be answered by other statements based on the quality of the statement. So just keep that in mind of statement plays. They're very impactful things, and a lot of people kind of push them to the side because they want either the max reduction or they want the lowest cost to put something out there. Let's look at Digimon, for example. Some people don't want to give your opponent a lot of memory because it gives them a lot of things to do. But just keep in mind that if your statement sticks based on what card that you place down, even if your opponent has a lot to do, they probably still can't answer the statement, and your statement probably will get rid of their creature.
Indeed.
So I think ultimately when you play a statement, you're basically demanding an answer out of your opponent. If that's what you need, you make a statement. It's like one of the things I like to do when I make a statement plays is that I make a statement play with a bigger statement in my hand that I don't want to be interfered with. So I put basically like a bait out. Here's my statement. If you don't answer them, the next time I play this statement, now this one just became more potent. So now you have to answer both of them.
Yep.
If you don't, well, I might just run away with the game. For example, one of the biggest things I think I've seen on stream was actually a person letting Dragon Naga Assassin live on the board for too long. Where it's like he just drew 3 cards.
I don't know why he left my Dragon Naga alive as long as he did.
Well, that definitely was you.
Yeah.
You don't look up.
Yeah, 'cause, like, the longer
I was like, he's at 4. Why aren't you blocking the 4 with the 4? Curse doesn't matter at that point. Let them both die.
That's the thing,
Yeah, but-
you make a statement. If they don't address it, you run away with the game.
they didn't address it, and he ran away with the game.
Yeah.
You got to draw more answers.
What do you got right there?
Draw.
So one thing I would have to say, depending on what kind of game you're playing, don't be limited to your particular color or archetype. Like even
Yes.
with like
Lord, yes.
even with Vanguard, where like in like the G era, like you were only limited to 1 clan. Now I played Prisms during one event and won, but half of the deck wasn't even prisms.
I still, to this day, I saw his deck list, refuse to believe that it was a Prism deck list. It only contained literally
33% of the cards were not prism cards. Most of them were triggers that were prisms.
I mean, hey, if people are gonna play a Genbu deck with just Genbu's out of it, I mean, it is what it is.
So, like, you know what? We ain't gonna get into this deck naming. Vanguard community. I hated it because they named decks after the Vanguard.
Hey, you get
But at the same time, I understand. But every other card game, why y'all naming the deck after a certain creature? Hey, I play white. Why y'all keep saying it's a Numigard deck or a Elk deck?
Well, they normally call it white control nowadays.
I ain't control nothing.
it's either white control or white aggro at this point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah,
Or white mid range.
even with me, mine was what? Curse control?
Yeah, they didn't
It's
respect the
literally
name.
serpents. Like, none,
They didn't respect
like
the name.
95%
And the
of the
crazy thing is-
spirits
the
were
crazy thing is,
serpents.
we're saying what our decks are. We're giving y'all the blueprint, and they just go, oh,
That
snap.
that really is
No,
hilarious.
no,
You
here,
submit your
this-
deck list with the name on the deck list, and it's like, nah, it's purple control.
Yeah, it's white control.
Like,
And the crazy thing is, you can look. I want to get to your point, but I'm gonna say this because it's Eric
Hey,
so
yo.
champion of Tulsa and Australia. I played both of them, and they liked my deck. They were even just like, "Yo, what is this?" My reply is my deck. They don't even know what it is, and those are very good players. They didn't go like, "Hey, man, nice white control." They ain't say that. Why? Because I played it differently. Everyone else, hey, no white control. You know what? You can have it.
Labels, am I right, guys? 2024.
So, like I was saying, don't let the colors control how your deck is.
Mhm.
Like these are cards that I play in my purple deck. 4 different colors of different things.
I
We
think what
seen-
Feral
So-
Slash,
yeah,
Bloodstream.
some are in the side, some are in the main. But yeah, don't let colors determine how you're going to be playing. this game.
Those cards are like significant cards too.
Now these are all magics,
Yep.
but
you
there's
have
there's other decks.
We have Floodstream,
Feral Slash, Dream Bomb, and Rifle.
They're probably the most common cards that you'll see in pretty much every deck.
I mean, some of the most versatile cards are like Dragonog Assassin from purple,
Yeah.
the Hippocampo from yellow,
Worker Ant-Man.
Worker
Worker
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man from green.
Yeah, that's another thing,
now,
too.
Now, even the white deck that I fought in top 16,
Mhm.
it had the Mandela in there. That is
Right.
great. They were not limiting themselves to just white. They threw a little splash of blue in there, and what did it do? It got them into top 16. 2 of the same deck got into top 16 through that effect. Through that.
Yeah.
Nobody was expecting it as
No.
well.
Nope. So if you have a deck idea,
When you think in white control, and
Definitely
like,
try
okay,
it
I'll wear them down slowly. I got this, and then all of a sudden they drop down Mandela.
Mandela, and then just
Yeah.
accelerates the game pace.
And then it's like, okay, well, I ended your turn again. I'm going to drop another Mandela. Okay, well, I stopped you again. Drop another Mandela. By the way, how many cards in your deck? 0. Well, game over.
yeah, and
Turn in.
along with that goes along with if you have a idea
Mhm.
for a deck, try it out. Even if it's just a random idea, try it out. If you want to build it for funds, don't even worry about what I'm about to say. But if you want to build it competitively, keep these things in mind. If you have the idea, first look at the blueprint. What is the blueprint? Have these 2 right here and everything else should come together. 1, what's the win condition of the idea? If you got the win condition or how the idea is going to win, perfectly fine. But now you're probably thinking, okay, what's the second one? Or what if my idea doesn't have a win condition? Totally fine. How is the deck going to perform? What's the engine? What drives or pushes the idea? Some ideas are typically around 1 or 2 cards. Like, let's look at Mandela and milling. Well, dang, Mandela and milling, I really want to make this work. Well, how can I push the deck forward? How can I make it work? What's the engine? Well, white has very good solid bodies, and the nexuses boost up their defense, but also protect the nexuses themselves.
Yeah, they have good staying power.
That means the staying power of white is more beneficial to Mandela than its own color, or that's the idea or thought process beside to the person who built the deck. Let's look at, for example, Tom, who built, serpents. No one looked at serpents and said this is going to be an idea. Tom had an idea. He said, this is how the deck's going to perform. This is how I'm going to win. What's the engine behind it? Of course, there are other little intricate things I would like to say with that, but I don't want to take too much time. But if you have an idea, how is this going to win? What's the engine that pushes the deck forward? After you get that together, play. Play as many games as possible.
And don't give up on the idea too, because it might come out of nowhere. Like it might take you like 50 games just to break this idea.
Yeah,
You also might need to find the balance of the deck itself. Like, okay, so this card isn't helping my whole scenario. Let me try something different.
Yep.
No idea is a bad idea unless you give up on the idea.
That's right. If you the more games that you play with friends or random people, the more you're going to be able to see the things that you need to edit. But try your best to edit your deck after no less 3 matches. This allows you enough time to see things that you would have missed if you only played 1.
And by matches, we mean best 2 out of 3.
Best 2 out of 3. I can't stress this enough. Try as many different cards that you believe will work with the deck. One of the things that I tell everyone, which goes along with this tip, but it's also another tip. If you don't like the card, whether it's aesthetically or skill-wise, you mentally will not let it work for you. I was a carrier of this for years. And honestly, at the very start, I was a guy that did that. If I didn't like how the card looked, I wouldn't use it. But afterwards, my cousin told me, you need to try this because it'll work with your strategy. And after I tested it again, during my Vanguard days, I created a loop in Shadow Paladins. And I only took it to one event before they was like, yeah, we rebooted the game. I kind of just stopped. And I placed very high in that Vanguard tournament. But here nor there with that, test the cards. Especially if it's similar or will push your game plan forward, test it. I'm not saying you will love it. I'm not saying you fall in love with it. But use it to the best of its abilities. Because you have an idea and you want that deck to prosper. Put it in there. Use it wisely. Every card has a time. I don't remember that phrase from Zane Truesdale. I'm not sure if you guys know what I'm talking about.
I know which one.
There's a difference between, using a card and playing a card. There is a difference. It doesn't matter the card game. So if you have a deck idea, don't give up on it. Try it out. Know the win conditions. Find the engine. Test. Create that blueprint. And you'll be surprised on what you can accomplish with that idea.
Yep. So on that note, does anyone here have any interesting tech ideas for our audience here that maybe they could try out at home?
Oh, yes. Boom. It's not really a tech idea, but of course we're on this tips idea thing.
Tips video, yeah.
Stop and don't undermine Floodstream.
Oh yeah, for anyone going out to Worlds, dude.
I'm gonna see if I can get this podcast out before Worlds. Watch this. You get to this point, don't undermine Floodstream. There's too many decks right now that are going to slip under the radar, which actually that might be another one, which is understand the meta, but also understand that the meta can also shift.
The meta is
because we understand the meta.
Ever evolving.
Yeah, because it's such a competitive game based on like cash prizing.
Yeah.
We have analyzed the meta to the point where we're going to counter the meta, and you have to expect the counter to the counter of the meta.
Right. So it's every event, even though it looks similar, other decks end up slipping in because they understand the meta. They go like, you know what, the meta might change a little bit, but it's still gonna be the same. So let me play something else. And then it's just kind of everyone was just kind of like at one point was like, ooh, the meta's kind of up here, so let me fight down here where I'm a little bit faster because people are undermining Floodstream. Because if everyone's fighting up here, there's no reason for Floodstream anymore. Yeah. Like maybe just for the Gimbu players, but most people are just kind of like, we probably don't have to. I'll just play red and just blow their stuff up. But then you got some other players who are just kind of like, they ain't flood streaming, so I can play down here. If I play down here, I'm fast enough to kill the Genbu players, but I'm also fast enough to get past red. And even if I can't get past red and they blow my stuff up, the unit they blew up, I already swung with them. So I'll just keep shotgunning everything down.
Yeah.
So it's like expect the meta to change, but also expect that the meta is still going to adapt to change. And also adapt to the current meta. So it's you have to really just think outside of the box, but don't underestimate Floodstream. It's gonna save you when you start that first game. And it's always that first game where you roll the dice and they high roll and they say, you go first.
And I never.
You
went
set
high
up a
rolls.
Nexus. One Nexus.
Oh man, that
And
Nexus
the
is like
turn
a
goes
death
back
wish.
to you.
That's
And
like a
all
death
you
wish.
see is boom, 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 boom.
And 5. Dead.
That happened to me.
That's why that aggro. That's why that aggro.
Yeah.
And all it takes is that one game. Once you lose that first game, you're kind of on the back foot. Because now it's like I could side deck, but I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
It's even worse sometimes because they can go 4 out there and all of a sudden regain stand up the last one swing
Yeah.
again.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I think white aggro is so much more potent than a lot of other aggro decks because of the fact that they have nearly a confirmed kill, right? Because of that one card regain. They have decent bodies that get decent BMI BP with decent reduction.
And you
one
can just
card
sack
regain
it
is
off.
spoof.
You
Yeah,
can just sack off too. Just play 4. Sack
Another
off too.
note that I want to make off, especially because of the aggro plays and everything. Earlier, through like set 1 and 2, I would have told you straight up, don't play your ice shields early. Don't do it. It's not necessary. Let them take you for like 1 or 2 life, then drop it down.
Yeah.
Now it's not a horrible idea to drop it down immediately.
Because you need that extra 1 life to just survive, even if it's just that action of pushing it back up if you just play it 4 to play.
Yeah.
You know? It's just that extra 1 life that they can't get through.
Also, now with a lot of cards, especially with next to come out with double breakers coming out, sending it early might be life and death. For example, Feng Hong, you sending it 2 don't mean anything.
Yeah.
Double heart don't mean anything. So
Yeah.
it's like now the 3 life seems to be the comfortable number right now where you kind of want to be. 2 seems to look like a death wish depending on what you're playing against.
And even 3 might, like, in the upcoming stuff, might be a death wish too.
Actually,
I've played a lot of like
Yeah,
on the nice edge with 1 life left.
with that, sort of on that, but doubling back. When it comes to your deck buildings, even though I know you have ideas, I think there are some cards that need to be in the deck. They're not something that's solidified, but I say let these cards be in there, and if you don't need them, then take them out. And I think these are the 3 cards I believe that needs to be in every deck, and if you don't need them, then you remove them. One, of course, Absolute Ice Shield. It's not going anywhere. Unless there's another counterpart that comes because TCGs in Battlespirits, I said TCGs in Battlespirits, decks in Battlespirits eventually have one of these 2, or one, which is one of the, I'm gonna say Ice Shield clones.
Mhm.
Each one works differently in
Yeah.
Battlespirits. Some decks end up having one of them, or some decks end up having like 2 of them. And there's like I think like 4 or 5 different types in Battlespirits or something like that.
Yeah, it's like about 4.
So have a shield clone, because I'm not sure what's going to come out in set 4 because of the double breakers. They might end up having a different shield, but who knows? But have one of the shield clones. 2, I believe every deck should have this at a 2 of Dream Bomb. That card is so versatile at both a set card and a card in your hand. Indiscriminately gets rid of a spirit. Besides white armor, there ain't nothing in the game that's stopping that card. It's literally saying you, no matter how much you cost or what you do, get out of here.
There is one other card. Ryu. That Fabled Beast card.
We don't care about him. No matter. He's a shadow.
Dang.
And that card gets rid of a Nexus. Imagine someone really early, you get hit, you activate it, it kind of sets them behind a turn or 2. And the
Especially
third,
early game.
yeah, and the third card is one of these 3, and it all depends on what your idea is. But I really strongly believe that one of these 3 should be in your deck as a 2 to 4. It could be 2, 3, or 4. Worker Ant-Man, Dragon Naga, or the yellow one that says if I hit game forward to my life, Hippocampo. One of those 3. Why? They generate you something for pushing the game forward. you either draw a card and it has curse. For you aggressive players, that card fits in your pocket. Most aggressive decks need to get that resource gainage back while also being aggressive. When you look at Worker Ant-Man, for decks that like to set up or accelerate their game plan safely, Worker Ant-Man's that guy. For paying 3 for 2 cores and a nice decent sized body, it will accelerate your game plan. The longer he's out there, the faster your turn gets, and your opponent has to deal with him. After 1 or 2 turns, he becomes a statement himself. When you look at Hippocampo, that guy right there kind of sits in between Dragon Naga and Worker Ant-Man, and the reason why I say that is one thing that you can't get that easily in Battle Spirits is life. And being able to hit someone to gain life, but also a resource once you get hit back, that is a double whammy. Because now you prolong the game, you prolong your life, but that's also a resource. They will have to answer this guy eventually. So one of those 3 I believe need to be within your build. Granted, once your build gets solidified and you say, I don't need them, those guys can come out and your deck can push forward from there.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Hippocampo. I think Hippocampo is kind of like what you depended on. It's depending on how aggressive you want to be, or I guess, correction. If you're aggressive, you most likely have ways of getting in on your opponent's life. Hippocampo basically says you need to put your opponent now at a 2 life deficit every time he hits.
Yep.
Because every time he hits,
-1 and +1 for me.
Literally 2 life deficit every time. They hit you back, hit them again, 2 life deficit. It just makes a 3 life deficit. But if they hit you back, do it again. Now they're at 3 lives, you're back at 6, right? So it just makes the deficit larger and larger. Things are blessed, honestly, at that cost. I think also other cards, I think they should maybe, I've seen a lot in the meta that's almost arguably staples. One of them being Dream Bomb is things such as Thorn Prison. Thorn Prison, when it came out, it revolutionized the meta. Like, it really made you think twice before you attack with a board of 3. But if you attack with 1, board of 3, and then here comes the other 2, get Thorn Prison, next thing you know, he's getting mollywopped.
You're defenseless.
And it can honestly help you open up games. But it's like, oh, well, you're facing a white player? Well, guess what? Rest those other 2, and I'm going in. Give me suppression on Infinity Shield.
It's giving me a couple of wins where I can just swing in, drop down, Thorn Prison. Now they don't have their blockers anymore, and it's game over.
Yeah, because Thorn Prison handles a lot of situations. It stops multiple attacks coming in. If they only got 3 units, you kind of just shut the attack off for the remainder of the turn.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about sacrificing your creatures or activating your Absolute Ice Shield. Defensively, it opens up a path for the remainder of your units, or for units that have significant skills, such as when blocking from white.
Yes.
So that card is very very versatile,
very good, and arguably I think it's a staple. Like, for anyone that I guess is new to TCG, staples are typically cards that people would argue you'd have to run a deck to kind of survive. And again, it comes down to maybe what color you're playing. Maybe you don't need it. For example, like people like maybe like me, like I want to play aggressively. I think it'd be very good offensive, defensively, because if I pay with 4 cores, I go inside, I can double heart you, or I don't want you to attack me too much. Rest the other 2. So
right now really some would even argue like Strong Draw is now becoming a staple.
I would have to say Strong Draw is starting to work its way up into that staple area. I was not a firm believer of things like Star Blessed Draw or what's the other draw card?
Charge Draw.
Charge Draw. I guess mostly because I have this mindset of if I need to draw into something, I'd rather it be that card. And things like Charge Draw and Star Blessed Draw activating from the hand is only like a +1. So I was just kind of like against it. Now, of course, I understand Star Blessed Draw's also set burst ability is kind of nuts, but I have to wait for a moment. And I wasn't a fan of ditching cards from mountains.
Volcanic Canyon.
So, but after trying Strong Draw, I kind of got to the mindset of I'm not trying to plus my draws with Strong Draw. I'm trying to get to something quickly.
Yes.
Quicker,
and it's because of that 3 card draw versus, Charge Draw and Star Blessed Draw acting from the hand. That 3rd draw, I've never seen a blessing so much from a card before. Like ditching 2 to get to something I desperately need was just kind of like, wow. Is this how it feels?
Yeah, that's probably how it feels. But like for a lot of people that play Star Blessed Draw, they just like pay 4. Basically, for Star Blessed, if you set it, you basically paid 4 cores for 1 core per card. And drawing that 4 could mean the difference in life and death. Now, granted, you have to know how to play it. Because if you don't play it, you can sit
It's
there
going
for
to
the
sit
rest of
there,
the game.
or it's not even going to be
Yeah.
activated. You might have to do the break.
I've baited people out to activate not only Star Blast, but activate to actually pay the cost,
Yeah.
which wastes some of their cores, which allows me to kill them easier.
Yeah, because